Hey, how are you? I feel like a mess. I'm good though.
Okay, great. I'm going to call to order the June 11th, 2026 meeting of the Lexington Planning Commission. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have anything that needs to be updated or tweaked? If not, I'll take a motion and a second.
I move that we accept the agenda as it's presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is approval of the minutes. Did anybody have any comments other than me before you make a motion? Okay, anybody? Okay, so the first one was on page 3 under number 4. It needs the word "be." So second line, the commissioners noted that the building will not be painted. There will just be. And then the next one is under item C, zoning text amendment. Let's see, there was one where now, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line down, the sentence that begins, "Now the task is to," and that "with" needs to go away. Is to discuss. And then I was a little confused about the traditional zoning districts. I would suggest that maybe we change that to current residential zoning districts. Just said that there's no question about the traditional neighborhood, which we've talked a good bit about.
Is that in that C1? Where's that?
That's in C1 and the next.
Oh, I see.
So I'm suggesting that it read, "Now the task is to discuss how to implement additional flexibility beyond the current residential zoning districts." And this could potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the third page, in the top paragraph, it's the last sentence says, "They reviewed previous PUD criteria and emphasized the importance of maintaining high-level principles rather than overly specific standards." I'd like to have that say "some commissioners" rather than it makes it sound like everybody was on the same page about that. And that work? Okay, that's all I've got. So we need a motion and a second.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we'll open up for citizens' comments on matters that are not on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up? If not, I will close that section and move on to new business. So the first item under new business is CPA 2025-01-2026-05. Lexington Comprehensive Plan 5-year review public hearing. Arnie, do we have a staff report? Or
We do.
Yeah.
Over on page 5, just to give you a quick overview, we started this process back in August of 25. There was a survey, and luckily we were able to engage with the PDC and Jeremy in particular. They put out a survey. We had 3 public input sessions. We also, since your last meeting, had 3 comments, and those are submitted in your packet for your review. We also sent the VDOT, the transportation chapter, just recently, and they can take up to 90 days for that review. We're hoping that it can be done in 30 days or so instead. So after the Planning Commission is done with the public hearing and the recommendation, we're going to hold off on council having a public hearing until we get the comments back from VDOT so that we can incorporate whatever those may be into the packet. There may be a little bit of time before we go to council. We also, just to repeat, we need a recommendation from you if that's this evening based on what you hear from the public, or if there are any other changes that are necessary, you can certainly vote tonight or defer to another meeting. And also to mention, John provided a number of comments today. I don't want to paraphrase too much, but mainly smaller changes as opposed to substantive changes.
Yeah, typo level stuff, nothing substantive.
Okay, we can talk about that. Does that sound, I mean, when
Yes,
when we have commission discussion, does that sound good?
sure.
I'll have for introductory comments, and we do have a presentation, the same presentation that's in your packet.
Great. Well, the pleasure to be with you again this evening. I am Jeremy Crute, Director of Planning with the Central Shenandoah Plan District Commission. As you know, been helping throughout this whole process. So very quickly, just give a summary of the plan as it is. As Arnie already mentioned, that we've been working on this for close to a year now, but just again, by way of background, the comprehensive plan is the city's long-range plan designed to help shape all aspects of the city's physical development, setting that vision and shared goals for where you'd like to be 20 years from now, and then establishing high-level steps for how to get there. And there's plenty of reasons for why it's important to pursue this process, but one of the most pragmatic being that it is required by the state and is required to be updated every 5 years. And so we're in process of making sure that we're checking all the state boxes and meeting the state's code every step of the way. And ultimately also just trying to make sure that this plan does work well in concert with all of the city's other strategic plans, the downtown plan, the housing studies, and any and all the zoning code, ultimately trying to ensure that all of those are working in concert together towards the same overarching vision and goals. But also ensuring that as the comp plan is updated, that then allows time to think through the ways in which the zoning code or other regulations may need to be tweaked and adjusted in order to all work towards that same goal. So as Arnie mentioned, and just as a brief overview of the planning process that we went through, it sort of followed this 4-phase process. First, of just analyzing our current conditions, looking into all the ways in which the existing demographic, economic, transportation, land use, all the different data has changed over the last 5 years since the previous comprehensive plan was adopted. And then working in parallel with that data analysis piece was also engaging the public, ensuring that the community was allowed opportunity to provide input in shaping and establishing the plan and the vision for the direction that the city would like to go. And I'll show some of the survey and open houses here in a moment that Arnie mentioned. Both of those phases then feed into the development of the plan itself, and in this particular case, updating the plan's text, the maps, the tables, figures, all of the different elements of the plan to ensure that it is fully up to date, and that we are again adjusting that north arrow of where the city would like to go, and ensuring that every aspect of the plan is pointing in that direction. And then we are currently in phase 4 of the plan of working through the public hearings, moving towards formal adoption by City Council once we get the thumbs up from VDOT and once we've gone through every step of the adoption process. So touching on the community engagement a little bit in more depth, as already mentioned, we conducted the public input survey and got 187 responses on that. And a lot of the key findings listed for you there, but it was kind of that tension between wanting to remain a small town and maintain the city's character and charm, while also just recognizing the need for greater variety of housing and some smaller things like more downtown parking and biking and walking trails. Similarly, we also conducted 3 community open houses and listed some of the key themes that came out of that, but many of those aligning with the findings of the survey of needing some additional housing and trying to utilize the city's assets, in particular properties, in order to be able to do that, while also hoping to encourage more mixed use development, while also making sure that folks have the ability to get around with the needed sidewalk repairs and ADA improvements and the like. All of that then feeds into the vision and values for the plan. This plan vision was developed through an extensive community engagement process in the 2020 update, and has largely remained intact in terms of that being that North Arrow to guide all of the city's decision making and all of the goals, objectives, and strategies represented in the plan. That vision is then supported and I guess, yeah, is supported and move towards through 5 core values, being accessibility and diversity, sustainable economy, local identity and character, citizen engagement, and management collaboration. So all of the goals, objectives, and strategies represented within the plan are mapped to one of these, or I guess the outflow of one or more of these values. And you'll see that within all of the goals and objectives tables, that they are identified as to which value that they are pursuing. So ultimately, these vision and values try to again help bound and shape and point to the direction for all of the where the city should go. So digging into the actual elements of the plan, these are the 9 core elements or planning elements represented within the plan. Again, the idea being that it's a comprehensive plan, so it does affect all elements of the physical development. So everything from the historic resources to the green infrastructure to the economy and arts and culture and on down the list. So each of those then represent one of the chapters that we have updated, and each of those has gone through that same 4-phase process that we were talking about before of analyzing the existing conditions, seeing how the community engagement informs it, and then developing the plan and then how it might be updated. Within each of those planning elements, we then established a primary goal for the direction that the city would like to go as it relates to each of those primary elements. I won't read all of them for the sake of time, but those are there's the overarching vision for the plan, and then within each element, there's a separate goal that ultimately should be pointing towards that vision. And then underneath all of those goals, we have objectives. And as you can see, those then map or correlate to one of the core values that we saw earlier over on the left. Again, just trying to identify more, slowly zooming in on more and more, I guess, not nitty gritty, but like tangible objectives to try to reach in order to be able to achieve the goal statement that was identified for that element. And then underneath each of those objectives, as we went throughout the planning process, we established a series of strategies that are smaller action steps that the city can take over the next 5 or to 25 years to again achieve that objective, to then therefore achieve the goal, and then therefore achieve the vision for the direction that the city would like to go moving forward. So and also just wanted to touch on the future land use map, at least just one of the core pieces of all of those elements feeding together into this future vision for the direction again, and what we would like Lexington to look like 20 to 25 years from now. It maintains the same basic form and format as the previous 2020 plan update, with some small tweaks to some of the land use designations. But it maintains that same basic idea of having identified centers that are connected by major corridors that then are surrounded and I guess informed by the transect of that particular land use area, like the different types of neighborhoods or the downtown. So I know that's a very, very, very quick summary of the comprehensive plan as a whole, but would be more than happy to talk through any changes or tweaks that you would like to make to ensure that we have and that the work that the PDC has done and to try to update the plan is in fact in line with the direction that the Planning Commission would like to go. And they're happy to hear any comments or both from the public or the Planning Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremy. This has been a Herculean effort, and we are grateful to you.
Sure.
So John, I'm wondering if now would be a good time for you to go through, would that make sense?
Well, I'm actually not prepared to go through them, but let me explain, because if this is the right moment.
Sure.
So all but one were typos. They were things like ongoing is one word, not two, and it's showing up as two all down this column.
Got it.
There was one thing of minor substance that was that, and I apologize for not having it, but I literally ran out of my house and forgot to grab my laptop and wrote all the things.
No worries.
So if folks feel that they need to hear them in detail, oh, you have them?
Printed out one time.
Thank you so much. Shall we then?
Let's try to
Okay.
get it up too.
Yeah. But do we,
We don't need to worry about the typos. I think we just want to fix the typos for sure.
okay, great. So we don't need to go through any of the sort of typos and just like, okay, great. So the one was, okay, so it was on page 124 in the, it's not the actual number 124 in the pagination of the document, but it's the 124th page if you're looking at it with Acrobat. When we're talking about the UDA needs. So I'm just flagging this as substantive, as something we could discuss apropos of some of the public comment questions that were submitted to us electronically about sidewalks. We've got sidewalks importance there as like moderate currently, and I was just flagging that we could consider raising that to high.
Sorry, is
And
this is
on-
from public comments though?
Yes, the public comments that were submitted.
Yeah. Sorry. What is it that you're wanting to raise to from medium to high? Just
So does anyone happen to have the comprehensive?
you.
Yes, thank you. So there's, right, under transportation needs, right, right? And I was, to be clear, I'm not requesting unilaterally that we make this change. I'm
Sure.
flagging this as one item for discussion. If, given that we got several comments about a particular street with sidewalk in prep
Yeah.
for this meeting, is that
And-
one potential way to address that we could consider, if it seems appropriate, is raising the priority level for sidewalks from moderate to high or something.
Right. And how did those UDA how do they get categorized?
Yeah, so I believe my memory is that we kept them the same as they had been in the previous plan, and then had a conversation about them at one of these, the
did.
planning commission meeting where we discussed the transportation chapter. So I
Okay.
believe that's the only changes that have been made, or whatever we discussed
Right.
here in this space, but would be very easy to make an adjustment if that's what has
Right.
come up with planning
So,
commission.
so to that end, I know that sidewalks are also something that a lot of people are concerned about, and it's in the green infrastructure, it's in the bike ped plan.
Yeah.
And there are, the council has just put aside extra money for working on improvements. So it makes sense to me to go with your recommendation. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that?
And
Just
just to
if I do a little counterpoint, just.
Yeah.
Well, first I'll go back. Well, is this the discussion part, or are we in the right section
I've
to have?
messed
the-
up our flow here.
Well, that's okay. And I know, I'm fine if you want my opinion, or I'll wait. Because I was looking back at the bike and ped plan to see if this sidewalk was even mentioned in the bike and ped plan, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
The bike and ped plan, those sidewalks that which I'm not saying this isn't an important sidewalk, but I noticed that the bike and ped plan, it was highlighting what was part of the brushy blue. And then also around where new development was going, and probably higher traffic areas.
Mhm.
I do think this is one that I agree with Shannon's comments. I think we, as a planning commission, should send it forward to the city manager and the director of public works and say, this is one that planning commission is interested in. And even if they just do around the Heinley's house, because that's kind of the main area, that's great. My only reason not to elevate sidewalks in general, is if we do that and that goes through the city, we're deciding to change our budget based on that and our project management. And I'm not sure. I don't know that the sidewalks right now are higher than some of the infrastructure projects we have. I mean, I assume that would be the impact if we raise it from it to a high priority, as we're saying we want to put more money there.
potentially,
I was just going to say the other items that are listed with a high priority are other pedestrian infrastructure, high, and bicycle infrastructure, and signage and wayfinding. Everything else is either moderate or low.
Oh, okay. If those are the others, but, okay.
And-
Most of them are low priority. Sidewalks are moderate and I'm not quite sure what other pedestrian infrastructure represents.
Well, we were talking at several meetings and I feel like I'm harping on this, but we were talking about connecting the Walmart, Tractor Supply,
Yeah, right,
will be
right.
TJ Maxx, high school, that
Yep.
whole, I know that is a lot, the county, but
Yeah.
I mean, be able to connect the city limits to that aspect of the county. I know that we talked about that in several meetings, maybe that also
Right,
reflects
but
that
it,
note there.
it certainly could, although I don't know how much impact we
have.
as the city can have on the county.
Just
Probably
coordination,
Yeah,
but-
coordination, right.
And
So in any case, I don't know.
Well, it's fine. I think sidewalks are as high as biking.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say
that's what
so.
Biking is, and that's fine.
Yeah, and there are a lot more people who use the sidewalks for walking than there are cyclists. So,
Right.
so I would agree. I think that. So, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you. Jordan.
Okay. Were there anything else on yours?
I mean. On mine?
Yeah.
No, I mean, they're all little things, like I said, typos and
Right.
things like, we're told that Lexington has a population of 7,000 on page 10. 48% of residents were told at college age, but I don't think the students are counted in that 7,000 figure,
I think they are.
are they?
It's always a problem is I think some students are, but not all the students are. It depends how they answer the census.
So I'm not proposing a specific correction, but just flagging that as,
Yeah.
are we sure those numbers are right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. There's nothing that is being proposed that's a substantive change of any kind. Does
Okay.
that sound fair?
Mhm.
Okay, just on the pages that are in the packet.
Yeah.
On page 10, vision and values. Could we add a sentence at the bottom, in the dark blue box? Could we say something like, look for these symbols throughout this plan?
Yeah.
I've had issues with these symbols. And then, and then on page 12, this is just the goals. So I wonder if we might want to have that header for this page be goals.
Okay.
And then the next one is goals and objectives. So that works. But then I'm also wondering if you could put the word elements. So, yeah. It's my brain. It's working that way. It wants to know what it's looking at.
For sure.
Or plan elements maybe would be even better.
Absolutely.
And then on the future land use map, is this the place where we make changes to the actual future land use map on this map? Is that like,
We make
For-
changes and we were reflected on that map, yes.
Okay.
Should be.
then there are a couple of areas that I was emailing with Arnie about today, and they're both around Woods Creek. So one of them is, I believe it might be easier if you come and look at this on my map. It's the area, I believe it's the Sledding Hill,
Mm.
which is currently in traditional neighborhood, right there. But didn't we say that we wanted that to stay in parks and open space?
I think you need to go down one street. I
Yeah.
think
Am I in the wrong?
green
place?
is the parks and open space, which is the sledding hill.
That is the Sledding Hill. That's the Sledding Hill.
It's closer to Waddell.
Okay. All right. Well, then that answers every bit of that question. Thank you.
This is an important question, though, I remember from our discussion.
Say, I had no idea.
Don't mess with the sledding hill.
With the civic campus post, is that reflected with Maury River having that little section of houses, or does that not matter? Is that
I've got a note to check those,
Okay.
the things that we've covered, because at this scale,
It's
it's
hard to-
impossible
yeah,
to
it's
tell
really hard.
way,
Yeah.
particularly on that street.
That's the only one I can think of like little orange on that little section, but.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else have any? Thing else? Actually, I do have one other question. In these areas that are, I guess this is suburban neighborhood. It looks yellow in the legend and it looks sort of green everywhere where it is suburban neighborhood. I'm wondering about there's some big parcels of land sort of out around the water tower. And I wonder if that's an area that we would want to consider having as a residential multifamily. Just sort of as sort of we've been talking an awful lot about increasing density and increasing affordable housing and big parcels of land like that seem like they would be good to sort of say, in the future, this is sort of what we're looking at. We want to increase that and just future land use as opposed to now.
You can certainly make that recommendation to sort of signal that you would like to see something more on that 12-acre parcel that's owned by Mr. King. But unfortunately, he has plans to build one house for his daughter on that 12 acres.
One.
Talked to us recently about coming in for a building permit for that. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't still
Yeah.
consider indicating residential multifamily or something that could be further in the future. But just to let you know, his current plans are to build one house on 12 acres.
For an
Okay.
opportunity area, just make it, if we set it as an opportunity area, so it's a little vaguer, but it's saying we want to see something
Right.
interesting. there,
That would
yeah.
certainly work
Yeah.
as well.
I agree.
I don't see any place on here where it is actually indicated multifamily. I mean, somebody said multifamily. but-
Right. So would it, yeah, it's okay. So I'm looking at the actual zoning map that has residential multifamily on it.
Okay, thanks.
So,
You're correct. It's not,
right,
that's a zoning district and we're talking about land use designations.
right.
Thanks.
So so an opportunity area then is what we would be looking at. Maybe for, a number of those properties, not just the only one big one.
Right, including the tower
Yeah,
itself. or-
including
yeah,
the
that
tower and,
parcel.
yep.
That'd be fine. Who is it?
And within most of the opportunity areas, we sort of have a rough description of the type of opportunity that we see in that
Mm.
particular area. So in this particular case, would the primary opportunity be more higher density multifamily residential? Does that be the primary
It could even be mixed use
use?
of some sort,
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, because we were actually looking at, Airbnbs are out there at one
Right,
point.
exactly.
Yeah, just make one sort of point. If you do go to the mixed use neighborhood designation, the zoning districts that are consistent or compatible with that designation are RM, so residential multifamily, RLC, which is your residential light commercial, and your C1 and planned development.
So how does that impact changing this to an opportunity area?
I'm just trying to make you aware that
Yeah.
depending on what designation you choose for something more than what it is currently shown, just if you choose one, I'm just trying to make you aware of the districts that somebody could request and it would be consistent with that designation.
So C1 would be
Yeah,
consistent.
which is a little bit odd.
does
to
that
me.
work then?
That was,
That doesn't seem like it fits.
but there should also be some comfort just because somebody asked for C1 there, it doesn't mean that they'll get it. I'm just trying to give you an indication of depending on what future land use designation you want to place in that area, what the rest of the
Right.
code tells us about this zoning district specifically that would be in theory compatible with that designation.
So could we be more specific and say residential multifamily with support or mixed use supportive, with supportive businesses, that are, residential support. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm not quite sure.
think we're getting now to the opportunity area and trying to provide some language and guidance, correct?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly could do something to that.
So,
but
so
we
that we're,
still-
so that we're eliminating the possibility that somebody comes in and says, I want C1.
For sure. And so we're gonna maintain it as suburban neighborhood,
Yeah.
but then overlay the opportunity area.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that moving it to traditional neighborhood wouldn't make sense because it's not an older neighborhood like the ones that are closer to downtown.
It also doesn't provide you the multifamily
Okay.
aspect that I
Uh-huh.
think I heard was perhaps necessary. Can I make one other observation? If you see on the map out there as you're heading out Enfield, you'll see the Civic Campus post that is for the MSA's water tower or
Mhm.
water tank, I guess is a better description.
Yeah.
And the little pink that's right beside it is our attempt when we had a developer interested in the water tower property that we rezoned that and did a future land use map change to that mixed use neighborhood designation. And it might be hard to tell, but between it and the street, there may actually be traditional neighborhood because of the 4 or 5 lots that we wanted to put in. So maybe just the bump up to either traditional neighborhood, but that doesn't include the multifamily. So maybe mixed use is the appropriate district for out there. And we're not going to approve a C1 zoning, even if it says that it's, that's
Mhm.
just too far. So maybe the mixed use without having to provide the extra language and try to craft something and consider it to be another opportunity area. Maybe it's just a simple tweak to those 12 acres that are beside the water tower property, unless you're talking about additional property other than that, simply to the mixed use neighborhood designation.
Does that change the ability to have multifamily?
Does allow the multifamily.
It does allow it. Okay. Okay. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds great.
So what we're suggesting then is that the 12 acres be designated as a mixed use neighborhood.
Mixed, that pink color, correct? The mixed
Mhm.
use neighborhood, future land use
For
designation.
future land use.
Future and as an opportunity area or not? Do we
I would
not want to go
recommend
there?
no,
Yeah.
simply because those tend to be in more dense areas than
Okay.
what we have out here on
Very
the
good.
periphery.
Sounds good.
And that land backs up to Lime Kiln, just,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a problem to have it.
And does the 12 acres include what looks like a pond?
No, I think it's between the pond and the pink, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So it does not, to my
There's an-
recollection.
Right, there's another big piece of property that has that pond on it, and I would say I would also include that.
I'm not so sure that it does. We can pull up the GIS if that's helpful.
That'd be great.
Potentially, we can pull up the GIS if that's helpful.
What would be the benefit then of the opportunity area?
I think as Jeremy was mentioning, that you have a little bit more sort of say what can, in description, what happened there.
So why wouldn't we want that?
The other ones that you have currently of the 5, they are in, I would say, more built up areas already. And here we are on the periphery with Lime Kiln and the county directly behind it in a very low density situation. So I'm just suggesting perhaps the mixed use is sufficient.
Mm.
Since it's already there, I guess that's the one advantage of doing it versus the Donald tract is sort of remote and has the opportunity area, but yeah, I guess since you already have the mixed use, you just expand it rather than.
I'll see that.
Too bad though.
Oh, look, it's right there.
That's the water tower property. And that's the 12 acres that I'm
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's the pond that we were seeing
Yes.
that kind of
Yeah.
feeds down.
Yep.
So if I'm not mistaken, that's Mr. King's property. Whether or not you want to it is Mr. King's property for his own house, and then he purchased this piece beside it. That's the 12 acres and for plan for one house at this time. So that would be the property that's currently vacant that may make more sense to have a change in designation, even if it doesn't get implemented more so than the other properties around there that currently have a single family house on a parcel.
Although if we're talking about future, you know.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like the two of them together, I mean, that the bigger property, the 12 acres is a very odd shape. It's like Pac-Man with a hat on.
It's true.
Right, so I thought maybe these were also changed, but they were not. Those would have been the lots out in front of the water tower when we changed the water tower.
That's still kind of like making that whole area an opportunity.
That's up to you
I
all.
don't know. I don't know. I mean, we have no plans for it right now, but yeah, so it's hard to,
Right, but if we're talking about the future
yeah.
and there's already Kendall out there and there's already Lime Kiln. I don't know, it seems like it could be a great opportunity area to me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do we have consensus?
This is a great
I think
idea.
we do. All right, so we'll go with the opportunity area.
Thanks for raising that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Just for clarity on the 12 acres and the other piece beside it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
You do that even without their instigating it. Okay.
It doesn't change
Yeah.
anything about the
I hear you.
current, yeah.
Yeah.
Till the property owner comes in with an application to rezone the property, there's not really a change necessarily. This allows that to happen, but until they come in, doesn't actually occur. They get implemented.
And I guess just to be crystal clear, we're gonna change it to be the mixed use designation and make it an opportunity area. Is that the final
Yeah.
division? Perfect.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for Jeremy? Thank you so much. If we need additional, if we have additional discussion, we'll pull you back up here.
I'll be here.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open the floor for public comment. Do we have anybody who would like to make a? Please come up and state your name for the record and address.
Driscoll, 625 South Main Street. I just came to be your cheerleader. Thank you.
Thank you.
Having been involved in the first one, I know how much work it is. So much appreciated, everything that you've done. And for Arnie, it's his second rodeo. And I think that's great for consistency and then also looking to the future on implementation. So I've been reviewing the plan the last 2 days, reading it closely against the old one.
Yeah.
And I'll submit some comments to Arnie early next week. I didn't have a chance to write them up. Some of them are like John was catching and others are just some thoughts on the plan. I don't think anything that would change. And my comments could also be considered as part of council comments if that's easier to do. So thank you again. Much appreciated. And keep up the good work, Planning Commission.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Okay, commission discussion. Actually, before I close public comment, I'm gonna make just a note about the 3 letters that we received. They are from folks who are all in the Whitmore Street area. And they, all 3 of these letters came in talking about sidewalks and all the, we certainly agree that this is an area that needs to be addressed, but the comprehensive plan is probably not the place that that needs to be addressed. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we had received these letters. And Arnie has passed them on to Public Works, and they will be considered both there and in the, I guess, in the council budget. Does that sound about? Yeah. So, yeah, so that's it. And now I'm going to close public comment and we'll go on to commission discussion. So I think the thing that we probably need to talk about first is John's offer. Do we want to just have that considered part of council comments on the plan?
Nobody
you
else has
have-
a comment. I'll say,
Yeah, please.
earlier we get it in, probably the better for continued review. So if it's possible to get them in early next week, and I'm not sure if you want to bring this back or if you're just sort of comfortable, perhaps recommending, making a recommendation this evening and not bringing it back, or if you want to see the comments all included in and then defer it to the next meeting, that's fine. We would just need the comments early next week so that we can make those and the other ones that have been talked about this evening to get them back to you in the packet for your next meeting.
Any thoughts?
If we could see John Driscoll's before they go into the
Yeah.
plan, that would be helpful.
Okay, so we'll bring this back up at the next commission meeting. Yeah, sound good? Okey doke. Is there anything else that anybody has to comment on about this? All right, then we will move on to the next item. Again,
Maybe
yeah.
get a motion to defer to the next meeting.
Oh, sure.
Specific, there's an ad out and if I don't want to have to re-advertise if possible.
Check.
Before we even go that far, I'm not going to be here next meeting. Is everybody going to be here next meeting?
I'm not. I won't.
3 people out
Um,
next meeting? They say you still
well.
have a quorum.
Sorry. I have to check my calendar.
Yeah, it gets hard in the summertime. That's why I just.
So that's the 25th.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be here.
It's the 25th of June?
Yeah.
25th of June.
Oh, no,
Today's the
I
11th.
won't be here,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3 won't, and you will.
I will be here.
Okay, so is that okay with you all?
Mhm.
You'll be able to have, give comments before the meeting, and I promise we will take them into consideration. Thank you. Okay, so we need a motion and a second to postpone the decision until the June 25th meeting.
I move that we postpone further discussion and voting on this matter to the next meeting to be held on June 25th.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. Okay. Good. Okay, great. All right, so thank you again, Jeremy. Really appreciate all your work on this. And moving on to PUD zoning text amendment. With continued discussion, Arnie, do we have a staff report?
We do. Excuse me.
This
So
starts
for-
on page 20, right? Yeah.
And just on 21, just to sort of highlight what we were hoping to accomplish during this meeting. As we talked about last time, we were hoping to get through intent and purpose section to really focus on that to see if we can't hammer out an intent and purpose, and then perhaps go through the structure. I'm trying something different if I have to admit the truth. Sometimes when I give you the language, then everybody wants to jump into the language and I do that too. You just want immediately. So I thought maybe we could also talk about structure or outline form to see if we want to maybe modify or amend. And then we also have the 3, as was requested, the 3 other ones that we're pulling from or have reviewed in the packet in case you want to bring any of that forward or reference those 3 other PDs. The only thing I would caution you is some of those aren't apples to apples exactly. That doesn't mean there's an element or something that you could potentially pull forward. So that is pretty much what I'm hoping to accomplish is, again, to really get into the intent and purpose section. And if we have time to talk a little bit about outline or structure. And then also we have extra copies. I'm not sure if Brinsley provided those to you of the pre-2017 version of the PUD, but those are there for your reference as well.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. And do we have any public comment on our PUD zoning text amendment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and open commission discussion. So, so we are looking at basically, we're looking at intent. We have not figured out our intent of like why we're doing this. I had a question, if I may. Is there some way that we can adapt our current zoning for residential mixed use or any of these others instead of creating a whole new district? I'm just wondering if we could get at this a different way.
I don't know how, in the sense that those traditional districts are sort of rigid, as you know, and that's what we're trying to get flexibility from. The typical way of handling this is to do a PUD text like we're trying to do. So if I'm not sure how we would build that much flexibility, then we're just really rewriting each one of those. That's a big ask too. When we're really just trying to have some flexibility for the handful or so of parcels that are left. So the ones that are harder to get to or just that are remain vacant. So I'm not sure necessarily, because I'm also struggling to even think of anybody else that I'm aware of. I'm sure it's been done that have actually taken that tactic. Is most of the time you just kind of leave what you have because that's what people are used to. And then you provide the flexibility on an as needed basis in the planned development zoning.
Okay, well, I thought it was worth asking. So then back to intent. Could you just restate for us what it is that you like? How would this benefit us, the planning department, the city, to have this?
If you think about the parcels, the dozen or so that we provided to you that came in under that initial planned unit development zoning, where it was an overlay, and we had a number of parcels that came in and they needed either a setback variance or they needed a variance or flexibility, maybe better than using the word variance specifically.
Yeah.
Some flexibility from the requirement to have public street frontage because they just didn't have enough for 2 parcels, or they wanted to subdivide. They had 5 acres and they wanted to subdivide off 2 acres, but they simply didn't have street frontage. From that level all the way up to the flexibility that we gained from Weatherburn, smaller lots with reduced setbacks. I don't think there was height there, additional height, but definitely smaller lots, reduced setbacks, and not on the public street because that's a private drive that provides access to all the houses in Weatherburn. Similar situation with 60 West, even though not as dense, mind you, but certainly a different lot layout than having single family detached homes on individual lots. So that is what we're trying to accomplish, is to have those types of developments be allowed through this more flexible process.
Right. And the PDMU is useful for larger parcels. Yes?
We only designated that, and I have to think hard, only designating that for the 2 opportunity areas, which we have our C2 zoning district. So if we start out East Nelson from Kroger out to Sheets, and then as we go down South Main Street from the firehouse to basically the old VDOT property. And then I cannot recall off the top of my head if we also allowed that flexibility on the Spotswood parcel specifically as an opportunity area, but that we may have done that. So those are not just for larger parcels, but those are for those current suburban commercial areas that could be redeveloped into something with a mixed use where you can have the commercial on the first floor and residential above.
And part of that impetus was we don't allow residential in C2. So this way, if it's mixed, then we allow the residential.
And is there a reason why we don't allow residential in C2?
if I remember correctly, when this is is most likely in the update to the zoning ordinance in 2017, we wanted to protect our commercial district. We wanted, because those provide the revenue. But then as we learned, there's a housing shortage. So that was part of the impetus for the mixed use to allow the residents on top of the commercial. So we still have commercial component, but we have clearly across the country a need for residential units.
Right. I noticed so Leslie had referred to this housing bill, 804. And I noted that they had suggested, modifying rezone all commercial and undeveloped residential properties to allow for residential development. As one of their 3 things that you could do to pass their test of whether you were doing enough. And so I just wondered if that was something that we had considered in
I'm
our,
not sure I understood that. To reason for residential development, at what density or number of units per lot?
I'll just read it to you. It says rezone all commercial and undeveloped residential parcels to allow for residential development near transit stations, places of employment, higher education facilities, and other appropriate population centers.
Then you need definitions for all those things.
Right.
Well, I would-
I'm just, that's literally out of
Yeah,
out of bill.
but that wasn't approved.
No.
So what I would suggest is we go along our path until we're forced off our path. Sorry, that's a joke. The state's going to continue to do these types of amendments, and they haven't happened yet. We know that they're coming. I may have stated before, I think we're in a good position because our R1 district allows duplexes, it allows attached, detached, accessory dwelling units. Our R2 allows attached and detached. So we're better off than most places. And also having residential on commercial properties, we allow that now.
Right.
So I wouldn't take into account what may be coming. Let's just go ahead and do our thing. And as long as we get our foot in the door, which we will before the next round. Yeah, before the next round happens.
Mhm.
So we should be fine with our proposal for what happens with PDR.
But getting back to your question, we still want to protect our commercial areas, I think. I mean, we are making more money off that. We want to make sure there's still high traffic on the ground floor, even if, whether it's C1 or C2. So I still think it's good that we don't allow widespread residential, but the PDMU was one step into it.
Mm.
If it's an opportunity area, somebody might come up with a unique project that we do like, a high density apartment somewhere. So we still have the opportunity, but I don't know that I would change our mindset. You don't want too much residential. You need something to pay for all the residential, and their
Yeah,
commercial is it.
absolutely. Although we've spent a lot of time, a lot of time in my tenure on the planning commission working on getting more residential, alternative residential. So I just, I feel the messaging that I'm been getting is that's like a number 1 priority is allowing more residential.
Yeah.
So
So we increase density where we can without changing the character of the existing neighborhoods. And I think we all know there's only so much we can do in Lexington to increase it. But we do have these few parcels.
Yeah.
So if we do the PDR, maybe we can, in isolated areas where it doesn't impact the overall neighborhood, we can increase density in those areas through this zoning change.
So that sounds like we would designate specific areas though. Like, I'm not quite sure how we would, unless we say that we are going to have a minimum lot size.
Well, or I think we designate opportunity areas. We say this, like, for instance, maybe you say that in, I don't want to jump ahead, but it says down in permitted uses, it says, the density shall be no greater than specified in the underlying district. Perhaps we make that for R1 and R2, but for opportunity areas, that doesn't hold true.
Well, that would make sense.
And just ideas like that, we can get into the nitty gritty.
Okay. All right. So then the intent is to increase our flexibility to allow for residential. Is it only residential?
That's what we decided.
Oh,
Now, there's
that's
a
right.
little
So
bit of discussion
PDR.
of, like, if there's a commercial
Yes.
component, but it's like the accessory to the major thing, which is residential, there's some discussion perhaps allowing some small component of commercial. I'll leave that up to you, but for the most part, yes, it's about residential uses only.
Okay, so, does anybody have any stab at language
Well,
or intent unless you,
so we didn't have to do that on page 22.
Yeah.
I went to the extreme trouble of double spacing the intent section. Just in case you wanted to do a little bit of wordsmithing, but I would certainly recommend, this is the pre-2017 plan unit development, utilizing that as your backbone. And I'm also going to suggest that you use the entire pre-2017 version as your backbone, and then we could decorate it as we see fit for this newer version. But that, again, that intent and purpose section, I think, is highly useful. Just to read it into the record, I guess, in case
That'd be
that's
great.
helpful. Intent and purpose, the plan unit development, of course, we would change that to plan development residential, PDR.
Yeah.
Concept encourages and permits variation in residential developments. Its intent is to permit greater flexibility in order to allow more creative, innovative, imaginative, and where possible, environmentally sensitive development than may be possible in the underlying zoning district's regulations. Oh, sorry, may be possible if the underlying zoning district's regulations are strictly applied. A PUD is intended to provide both for development flexibility of undersized parcels and to allow the use of diversified development techniques for larger parcels. The PUD overlay is intended to expand housing opportunities for persons of all income levels. And then from an early discussion, I think somebody mentioned and protect neighborhood character. So I just throw that out there.
What was the last thing?
And protect neighborhood character.
Very good. Yeah.
So a couple of just sort of observations, and I'm going to be, where am I? In that second sentence, its intent is to environmentally sensitive development that may be possible if the standard residential zoning district regulations are strictly applied. Because I'm hopeful that we will be similar to the PDMU, where this is going to be a district and not an overlay.
Right.
Just to be consistent with those.
So that would change that last sentence too.
Correct. That's the only thing that I have to offer, just to make it one PDR as opposed to PUD, and then to change the idea from an overlay to an actual zoning district. And the rest I leave up to your consideration.
so can the word or the phrase undersized parcels seems very ambiguous to me. Could you explain a little bit more about what that means to you anyway?
Well, we have adopted zoning standards for minimum lot size,
Right.
that are really more of a suburban nature. So we have parcels in the city, a fair number of them, and the older the section of town, the worse it is. So we're going to have properties that are legal non-conforming lots of record, which means they're smaller than the 8,000 square foot R1 zoning district size, as an example. But I think this is more of a general statement, just undersized parcels. That's the way I read it.
So smaller than 8,000 square feet.
Mhm.
You had mentioned undersized and odd size, right? That you couldn't access with frontage and stuff like that.
So if we remember again, those dozen or so, we had some that really just needed some flexibility because it's an odd sized or undersized parcel, or doesn't have flexibility, so, or it doesn't have frontage. So just to keep those things in mind, I really like the idea that it's in here, that's provided for undersized parcels and for larger parcels, because I think that's the range that we've been talking about, trying to accommodate.
Mhm.
Or you could always just say undersized or odd size
As-
parcel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
It's an odd size or an odd shape.
Odd shape, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it need to be oddly?
Ah,
Yeah.
oddly shaped.
I believe so.
Still doesn't get at the access to a road,
True.
but it does get it a lot more than just undersized.
So undersized, oddly shaped, or without road access
Street frontage.
or without street frontage? parcels that are undersized, oddly shaped, or without street frontage.
That, or we could just put hard to develop, don't define
okay.
it too much.
Okay,
Maybe
parcels that are hard to develop for a variety of reasons.
Yeah,
It's good.
it also removes this phrase diversified development techniques, which I don't know what that means.
Sorry, where?
Diversified development techniques for large parcels. Development flexibility for undersized parcels, diversified development techniques for larger parcels. What's the difference? What does it mean?
I would tend to agree with you.
Mhm.
yeah, you know, I think
Yeah.
that was
Like
taken
that
from
whole thing.
Blacksburg. It looked like they had some.
I'm glad it wasn't a Lexington person.
They had some kind of similar language, I think.
Alexa.
So how would it read now, that sentence?
It would read, from the beginning, its intent is to permit greater flexibility in order to allow more creative, innovative, imaginative, and where possible, environmentally sensitive development that may be possible if this standard underlying zoning districts regulations are strictly applied. Sorry, that was the sentence before that. Sorry.
Okay.
A PDR is intended to provide both for development flexibility. Is intended to provide development flexibility of parcels that are hard to develop for a variety of reasons.
I think I would just stop there and leave out the whole diversified
Oh,
development.
wait, sorry, you want me to read it back?
No, I said, I think I would stop there and not put on the,
Yeah, exactly.
delete this. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Wait, you don't want to,
I don't think we need the diversified development techniques.
oh, yeah, that's why I stopped there.
Yeah, right, right.
So
So
no mention of larger parcels either then?
Well, no, I'm not,
do we need to?
Hard to develop whether large or small.
Well, for a variety of reasons covers that.
Yeah.
It does.
honestly, most of our remaining large parcels are hard to develop. That's why they're remaining.
Right. So a PDR is intended to provide development flexibility on parcels that are hard to develop for a variety of reasons.
You could just
Period.
eliminate that development and just have flexibility.
Yeah.
Say that
Kinda
again.
like double development there.
Mm,
Eliminate the first development.
Provide flexibility.
Provide.
That are hard, I got it.
Good.
So provide flexibility
Mhm.
Parcels.
for or on. No, it's gotta have something
Well, the
Flexibility.
developments at the end there
that are hard
When you read it.
to,
develop. So where do you want to change the develop? It's kind of redundant. or
give me
something.
some words
I think it was just dropping the word develop and
at the end,
in the
are
formulation you
hard-
gave before, the first one.
the first. one.
Yes.
The flexibility, right?
Okay, so a
Yeah.
PDR is intended to provide flexibility.
Yes. For large part.
But what kind of flexibility?
I think. Well, how does the
it-
sentence that you read before continue there?
With okay, so a PDR is intended to provide development of parcels that are hard to, sorry. A PDR is intended to provide flexibility on parcels that are hard to develop for a variety of reasons,
Parcels that are
of or for or on,
whichever.
of, for, or on. I'm not sure which one is the right one there. So a PDR is intended to provide flexibility for parcels that are hard to develop, but it's not clear to me that that says exactly what we're just
Regulatory
flexibility.
Flexibility.
But it's so that they can be
Yeah,
developed.
very
It-
And I realize that makes for an awkwardness, saying the word development
flexibility.
twice in the same sentence, but that's what it's for.
Arnie, do you have any suggestions?
No, I'm getting twisted.
Do you want me to read it again?
Like regulatory, if you
I
don't want
do
to say
too.
development.
Regulatory, I
again.
think.
Regulatory flexibility? Is this is that how you would refer to regulatory standards, the zoning would fall into regulatory, so that works. Okay. All right, we'll try it again. A PDR is intended to provide regulatory flexibility. I like it. For parcels that are hard to develop, but for a variety of reasons.
Good.
Okay. And then the PUD overlay is intended to expand housing opportunities for persons of all income levels and protect neighborhood character.
Did have one suggestion. I was looking at the Albemarle, what, their intent. And the last sentence is talking about increasing density.
Yeah.
And wouldn't mind putting that in there, though it could go somewhere else, but I was thinking something along the line, the last paragraph or sentence of their intent, maybe something to the effect of the PDR may be employed in opportunity areas in recognition that development with higher densities generally requires careful planning with respect to impact.
I like it.
Something saying that we allow higher density and,
Good.
yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
So I had something I wanted to add about the second sentence of the intent and purpose,
Okay,
if I may.
please.
I also was taking something from the Albemarle County zoning ordinance in this thing as well, but to allow more creative, innovative, imaginative, and where possible, environmentally sensitive development. That seems, I like creative, innovative, and imaginative, but it's in the Albemarle plan, they say promote economical and efficient land use. I like that phrase. And appropriate and harmonious physical development. I like that as well.
Mhm.
In terms of expanding on how we're ending this paragraph.
Appropriate and harmonious. And what was the first one? Efficient.
Efficient. and
Economical.
Economical and efficient land use. And that's the real point, I think.
Yeah.
And also appropriate and harmonious physical development. I like that that expands on what we end our paragraph with.
Right. It certainly does, protecting neighborhood character. Okay, although it does, that paragraph in Albemarle's does start with is intended to encourage sensitivity toward the natural characteristics of the site
Right.
and toward impact on the surrounding area and land development. I will say Albemarle is, a county. And so it's a much larger, but we also don't want to, have something happen next to Woods Creek, for example, that would be problematic down there.
I'm not really suggesting that we adopt this second paragraph from Albemarle's ordinance. I'm just saying that I like the phrases economical and efficient, and I think that gets at what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
And I also like the phrase appropriate and harmonious physical development. And I think that gets at what we're really trying to accomplish.
Okay, so appropriate.
Is that perhaps a task for staff to kind of weave that in?
Yes, please.
If I'm understanding, it's the second sentence that we have currently. Its intent is to permit greater flexibility in order to allow, and then the rest of that, but somehow switch some of that out for these ideas in Albemarle about promoting economical and efficient land use and also appropriate and harmonious physical development.
Yes.
I get
Yes.
that correct?
Without losing the environmentally sensitive.
Indeed. Okay.
Well, I mean, you could argue that creative, innovative, and imaginative are somewhat similar, I guess. So if
Mhm.
you're gonna weave those in, maybe you could consolidate those three to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Take out some more.
Agreed.
kind of one.
Good.
Or-
Okay, Arnie, you've got your work cut out for you. Editing.
Thanks for that
That part.
offer.
Right, yeah. I've been here a while.
And then one other thing in that sentence, then may be possible in the underlying zoning district, if we could just switch out underlying to then may be possible if the standard residential zoning district regulations are strictly applied.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Standard zoning district, is that what you said?
Standard
standard
residential.
residential. Standard residential zoning district for that parcel. To be clear. The,
Well, it's more of a generic thing, I think, just than the standard residential parcels limitations, you know, that. Because we're not going with an overlay, we don't really care what the specific one is. That's,
but so, all right, just bear me out. If we changed it to maybe then maybe possible if the standard residential zoning districts regulations are strictly applied on that, on a parcel. Or, I mean, I just feel like we want to say that because there are different residential zoning, standard residential zoning districts. We have 3, 4. So I just want to make it clear that we're talking about the one that would apply.
but you also have the added complexity of in a future land use designation allows more than just one zoning district.
Mhm.
So just because there's an R1 there today doesn't mean it couldn't also be an R2 in the future. And that may
But
be,
wouldn't that still be okay if it didn't?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be whatever it was at the time that the application was made.
just wondering, that may be possible if yeah. I'm not sure that extra detail is needed, but I'll leave it up to you all.
Could use the relevant standard residential zoning districts regulations are strictly applied.
That works.
Okay. Any other wordsmithing before we leave it to Arnie? Okay.
Clean up our mess, Arnie.
Yes,
Frankly, it's
please.
gonna have a task.
She's not even here to defend herself. Okay. That's right. The people who show up. Okay. All right. So we have intent, and you also wanted us to look at structure, or?
Well, I guess I'll leave it up to you all. The structure here is just what's left in that pre-2017 PUD. The only thing that I had, at least quickly, was along with permitted uses, you obviously have to have some sort of reference to what you're going to do with conditional uses.
Mhm.
So other than adding that, and I'm not sure if you've all had the time, if there's anything else sort of structurally from the other 3 that might be necessary. But otherwise, I would just recommend that we follow the pre-2017 for structure.
I think that probably makes sense as long as we give ourselves the flexibility that if something seems like we need to add it or remove it or change it in some way, we can do that as we go.
So does it make sense for us to bring back to you the modifications that we've already discussed in the intent and purpose, to bring back the rest of the pre-2017 and also include in that packet the other 3 so that you have those close by to make as we're going through section by section in the pre-2017 version, that you have those available?
I mean, I think it would be
Yeah.
fine to do that. I can say you don't need to print it again for
Yeah.
me.
We'll bring
Okay.
mine.
If you want to include it in the link, that's fine, but the links for them are on the website.
But yeah, we're trying to keep everything sort
Right.
of packaged if somebody were to come along and want to
Right.
see what your discussions have been. So we don't need to necessarily put the other 3 in the packet, maybe just in the email, include the links. But you
Yeah.
can also find those
Yeah.
on our website. Okay,
Does that work for everybody else?
thank you for that.
Okay.
That's a little bit more economical.
I would say on structure, and I didn't really look, does it roughly, the way it's set up, fit in with what we did with the PDMU? Or, I mean, just to make sure, just so they all have the
Some
same flow.
consistent.
Yeah, right, consistency.
just to quickly go through and shout out what the sections are in PDMU: intent and purpose, character of development, permitted uses, generally permitted uses with conditional use permit, mixture of uses, again, that being more specific to that, minimum area for PUD mixed use, sorry, PD mixed use, open space, densities, setback regulations, height of buildings, parking, utilities, application for zoning. So then that's the administrative part of it. So there's certainly some crossover there.
Yeah, I think what we have here is pretty good then. What,
Would we need the, sorry, would we need the utilities and application for rezoning?
Well, the application stuff is going to be administration.
Right.
That's going to be
Okay,
who applies, it comes to you, advertising, all that stuff. Now, utilities, I think in the last one, we were trying to force them to go underground, and maybe that's why we had that in that particular section.
got it.
and this does have a utility section, the old one.
It does
Yep.
say shall be placed underground. Good. Okay. Well, we'll have our work cut out for us for the summer. Okay,
So we'll, after we provide that to you, we're just going to start plowing through each section and doing the wordsmithing as we go.
yes,
Yep, perfect.
sounds great. Okay, anything else that anybody has to say on this before we move on? Okay, do we have a zoning and planning report?
No report.
Okay, and city council?
The only item I'll mention from last Thursday's meeting is we reappointed Shannon for another 4-year term.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for being willing to serve again.
All right, then I think we just need a motion and a second.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
And I'll just say this to you all. You all should be thinking about whether you'd be willing to take over as chair, because this is my last term as chair for right now. Right? I've served 2 in a row. You can only serve 2.
But not the next meeting, but the following, we'll do that thing.
Right. I'm just wanting them to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about their willingness.
She can start.
Go figure out.
She's doing your. Yeah, that's what she wants to study. So yeah.
Look, you're
sort of well, yeah.
That felt like nothing but courtesy.
There.
Okay,
That's it.
that is signed. This I don't need.
Well, for her.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
grateful to you for everybody.
See you, John.
Glad to do it. Hey, John. Seen you in a long time. I'm just gonna shake your hand.